Hello and welcome back to Queen of the Court. I'm Thierry, joined here by
Kiranini.
And we have our second edition of our show. We're talking about a lot of things today. And once again, we've got some evaluations of the NCAA women's ranking, some free agency talk from the WNBA. Going to talk a little bit about the NCAA Naismith Player of the Year. And, of course, we'll finish the show off by crowning our Queen of the Court for this week. So, jumping right into it with the rankings. We're just going from top to bottom with the movements, with the ones that we disagree with, feel the need to talk about, all that good stuff. And we're starting off with UConn. UConn moved from number 10 to number 8 after they beat Tennessee, who at the time was ranked number 7. Kira, what do you think about that movement?
Tennessee's been having a rough time on the rankings. They've been going down quite a bit, but they have been losing a lot. I do gotta say, Ozzie Fudd gets her first start, and she scores 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. She also went 7 to 9 from the three-point line, which averaged 77.8% and shot 56.3% field goals.
Ozzie had a pretty good debut in the starting lineup for UConn. I can admit that. And honestly, Ozzie was one of the freshmen I think that everyone was waiting for to see because obviously, you have Paige, the number 1 recruit in the class of 2020, go to UConn. Ozzie, the number 1 recruit in the class of 2021, goes to UConn. Ozzie and Paige are best friends. It was a match made in heaven. Paige messes up her knee. Ozzie is injured at the beginning of the season, and they haven't really played together yet. But I think it's good to see Ozzie getting her start and getting her success. But I still don't think it makes UConn the number 8 team in the nation.
Absolutely not.
How does UConn keep getting to move upwards? They get one win. They get a win over a ranked Tennessee. I'll give them that. Tennessee is ranked number 7. But it's a Tennessee team who we'll talk about later, like you said, has been on the downslide.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem fair to me. It seems like UConn is getting a little bit of favoritism and kind of legacy rankings on the side of the AP poll. But, UConn sitting at number 8 right now. We'll see what they do in this upcoming week in their matchups. And if they stay there, move up, move down, we'll see. Someone else who moved down, Baylor, they moved down 1 spot even after they beat Texas. Twice.
Yeah, and Texas happened to move down 3 spots. And then they also lost to Oklahoma, who was 18, but now they're 12. So,
beating an in-state rival, right? Like Baylor, Texas, that's a big rivalry. And they did it twice within the span of 2 days. Now, granted, they did lose Oklahoma, like you said, but come on. You're telling me the 2 wins over Texas, who was ranked higher than Oklahoma to start off with, that's worth less than that loss to Oklahoma, really?
Yeah, I agree. Just going down 1 spot, again, kind of going back to UConn, you can obviously see a little bit of favoritism here.
And Baylor is one of these teams that obviously also has a legacy, but I guess they just don't have the pull on their side here going down. Tennessee, like we mentioned earlier, Tennessee going from 7 to 13. Now, Tennessee has had some issues. So Tennessee, a couple weeks ago when they beat Georgia, that was a ranked matchup. They took down Georgia. Tennessee lost Kean Green. She tore her ACL. And while she may not be putting up a whole lot on the stats sheet, just averaging 7 points, 3.2 rebounds. She's shooting 55.3% from the field, which is pretty good, but like I said, it's only getting 7 points. So while she may not be packing the stat sheet, I think she brings something else for Tennessee that they're really starting to miss, and that has led them to losing a couple ranked games and taking this slide down in the rankings.
Yeah, their head coach, Kelly Harper, said it was a gut punch to the team to lose her because she's a great leader on the court, but now she has to be a good leader off the court.
That's possible. You can be a leader off the court, but,
sure.
It's different when you're not out there because there's some other things in the gameplay that she affects, a very aggressive presence that she's not there to bring for this Tennessee team. And so it's resulted in them losing some games. They've lost 3 of their last 4, including UConn and Florida, who we will get to for sure later on in this rankings. But Tennessee down after starting. They in the first ESPN top 16, they were up there. They were on the 1 seed line. Now they've dropped down to 13, putting them. That puts them on the 4 seed line.
Yeah.
So it'd still be a top 4 seed, but
yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be they're gonna be facing a better team if this trend continues. So.
Yeah. Next up, we have number 20 Notre Dame beats number 3 North Carolina State and loses to and then they lose to FSU. So Notre Dame is now ranked number 18. They went up 2 spots.
Notre Dame has had. I feel like I keep seeing Notre Dame losing. Like I feel like I've seen it in the past couple of weeks. Like Notre Dame getting upset by a team, upset.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I see Notre Dame beats NC State. I'm like, how does this happen? And then it goes back to the trend of losing to Florida State. Like, Notre Dame, I feel like, started off way higher, and they had, like, high hopes. And now I feel like they're just kind of fallen to kind of the background.
Yeah, for sure.
Of the ACC. Like, I mean, Notre Dame is one of those programs that has a long history and everything as well. Like, there's a lot of legendary programs here. And, I mean, part of that was Muffet McGraw before she retired. But Notre Dame, like, I feel like they're starting to kind of lose some of their I can't think of the word. They kind of lose some of their fame, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're kind of falling to the back of the ACC, who's having new people kind of come up, like NC State, who Notre Dame beat.
I mean, yeah, and people don't. If you talk about women's basketball, people don't really go, "Oh, Notre Dame." Like, there's many other teams.
No, yeah, you're gonna get, your UConns, your South Carolinas, your Stanfords, your Tennessees, probably. But, I mean, Notre Dame's not one of the ones that's always going to jump at you. But they've been there. Notre Dame has been there. I think back to the best moments of Notre Dame when Enrique Ogunbowale hit those 2 buzzer beaters. That was phenomenal. I remember those shots. But
those were great.
Notre Dame just kind of losing some of their prowess this season. So going down in the rankings after getting the upset win and then being upset.
Yeah, University of Florida jumps in the top 25 at 19. They beat LSU, who was 15, but now they're 14 last week. And they beat Tennessee, who was 14 and now is 17. And they also beat Georgia this past week.
I mean, 3 ranked wins for this Florida team. In conference ranked wins, because these are all SEC teams as well. Like, that's a big jump to be making at this point in the season.
Oh, for sure.
We've got, about a month and a half left before these teams start heading to their conference tournaments and we get the selection day stuff. And for Florida to be jumping in the top 25, and it's not, that's not a small jump. They went from unranked to 19. They broke the top 20. I mean, I am excited to see. Like, the SEC is a strong conference, and I'm excited to see what other havoc Florida can make in this conference, taking down LSU, Tennessee, and Georgia. All fantastic teams.
For sure. In our last episode, we actually talked about how we thought Oregon was underranked, but they happened to go from 19 to 24 after losing to University of Arizona and yours truly, Arizona State University.
I mean, what can I say? Is ASU a basketball school?
Maybe.
Nope. But I mean, they did get the good upset versus Oregon. I still think that Oregon is underranked.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. It's a logical drop. You lose 2 games. One that's versus a ranked team, Arizona being number 8, and losing to unranked ASU, who is floating around the tournament somewhere. Maybe not. Will make it. Time will tell. They got to work through their Pac-12 matchups. So, I mean, Oregon gets the loss in their trip to the desert. I mean, it was a rematch with ASU, too, because ASU got destroyed by Oregon a couple of days before, and then come right back, and ASU gets it. I mean, ASU had a really good weekend, though.
Oh, for sure, the men's basketball team.
I mean, the men's basketball team, but we're not here to talk about men's basketball. No. Sure, they took down
Go women.
No, but I mean, that Oregon State game, I was at that game. That was pretty cool. I called that game for Blaze. That was pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Taya Hansen, cool. 6 free throws in a row. I mean, free throws, that's important. Yes. I don't think I've ever hit 6 free throws in a row in my life.
I don't think I've had to, but...
I don't think anyone's had... I mean, like, maybe I'm just not good at free throws. Like, practice... game. No, I don't think I've ever shot 6 free throws in a row. I've never shot 6 free throws in a game, period.
Yeah.
But, like, in practice, it was never 6. I don't think 6 in a row. That's impressive. That
especially under those circumstances.
Oh, for sure. The pressure. At the time that they called the double text versus Scott Rowick for Oregon State, alongside the common foul, ASU was up 2. And then Taya Hansen gets sent to the free throw line. 6 in a row, ASU goes up 10. Or ASU goes up 8. Like, that won them the game.
Yeah.
And it brought them the momentum for when Oregon came to town. And they were able to take down number 19, ranked Oregon, dropping them to 24. And our final rankings talk for today, Iowa moving from 21 to 25 after taking losses to number 23, Ohio State, who's now 21, and number 6, Michigan, who is now number 4. 2 Big Ten matchups, all in the top 25. I mean, Iowa's an okay team. They don't have a bunch going for them, but they do have Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
Caitlin Clark is phenomenal. She's just a sophomore. She has been doing amazing things. And that kind of leads us into the next part of our show, which is, who do you think should be the Naismith Player of the Year? I've been seeing it on Twitter a little bit here and there. Granted, we're past the mid-season, where they recently put out their mid-season kind of finalists for who's on the list still. Some highlights there off of that list. Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina, Anissa Mara from DePaul, Ayoka Lee from Kansas State, Caitlin Clark, obviously, Kira's favorite, Cameron Brink out of Stanford, Baylor's Nalissa Smith, Naz Hillman from Michigan, Olivia Miles at Notre Dame, Ryan Howard from Kentucky. These are some of the top prospects on that list for that Naismith Women's Player of the Year award. I mean, who would you give it to?
Personally, I've been loving Ayoka Lee. Obviously, their record's not the best, but I've been really watching her because, I mean, she had that 60-point week. She had, like, a 40-point week. Like, she's been killing it, and she's been working and hustling on that court. And I love seeing players who, like, put their all into a game because, I don't know, I just love when players do that.
I think Ayoka Lee is a really good, like, her and I would say probably Anissa Morrow are two kind of like, not sleepers because nothing about their performances this season have been quiet.
Yeah. But
I think they're not the favorites. It's like they're people think they're way far back.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, their main debate is Caitlin Clark versus Aaliyah Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, that's kind of where I'm at a little bit because here's my thing. Aaliyah Boston is consistency.
For
like,
sure.
I think it was, she hit last week was when she broke South Carolina's record of 13 straight games with double-doubles. Like, she is phenomenal. She's consistent. Has been for the entire time she's been playing at South Carolina. I mean, Aaliyah Boston is certainly one of the best college players in the country, men or women's side, easily. Mm-hmm. Aaliyah Boston is phenomenal. Aaliyah Boston, statistically, is not doing what Caitlin Clark is doing.
Yeah. And
I think what kind of comes down to it is that Aaliyah Boston has a very good surrounding force around her. She's got, Destiny Henderson, Zaya Cook, Letitia Ami, I can't even say her name. I don't remember how. But they've got a few pieces down in South Carolina that are helping Aaliyah Boston out, and that's why South Carolina is the number one team in the country.
Yes.
They have a lot of good pieces, and they're headed up and they're led by Aaliyah Boston, who puts down phenomenal performances week after week.
For sure.
Caitlin Clark is practically carrying Iowa on her back. And she's doing it with multiple 40-point performances, multiple triple-doubles throughout the season. And it's, you got to talk about it. Like, you can't be ignored. Like, you have to talk about Caitlin Clark's performance, even if, Aaliyah Boston does get the award. Caitlin Clark, triple-double, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists, 31 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 35 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, 27 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. That was just last week when they played Wisconsin. Like I said, statistically, Aaliyah Boston is not doing what Caitlin Clark is doing.
Yeah, I can see that. Also, today, actually, Kevin Durant said, hopefully more people start watching Iowa basketball because he thinks Caitlin Clark is amazing. So,
like, she really is. She is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I just think it kind of comes down to her team is not at the prowess and at the level that South Carolina's team is at.
For sure.
And I think that it can come into play when it's, the player of the year. But like I said earlier, I think Ayoka Lee is a nice sleeper, almost, with quotation marks, their quote, sleeper pick. I think Anissa Morrow out in DePaul is amazing. I think she's probably got any freshman award you want. She might already have that locked up, and there's plenty of season left. I hope Caitlin Clark gets something this year, even if it's not this award, because I think she got kind of shorted a little bit last year playing in the same freshman class as Paige Beckers. Because Caitlin Clark, I think if Paige Beckers didn't exist or didn't play last year, Caitlin Clark easily could have won all the same awards.
Exactly.
Like, she was one of the top players in basketball last year as well. So that'll be something to keep our eye on for sure, and who starts pulling ahead as they get into these games and as we get closer to tournament time and all those good things. And, it's going to be fun watching, Aaliyah Boston, she's got one more year left on her. Caitlin Clark, just a sophomore, she's got 2. Morrow's a freshman, so she's got plenty of time. And it'll be a few years before we see some of them in the WNBA, but there's also some WNBA stuff happening right now that we can talk about.
Right here in our city of Phoenix, Diamond DeShields in a 3-team deal sending their 2023 first-round pick to Chicago, Bria Hartley, and 2022 and 2023 second-round picks to Indiana.
Yep, Phoenix making big moves here for WNBA free agency, getting Diamond DeShields from the champion Chicago Sky last season. They had to deal a few things away to pick her up, but they're building a super team because they also signed Tina Charles, who was the leading point scorer in the WNBA last season when she played in Atlanta?
Yeah, I think
when she played in Atlanta, yeah. So Tina Charles, Diamond DeShields, 2 huge pickups there for Phoenix, and I think Phoenix is really trying hard not to get beat in the finals again.
They don't want to catch another L.
They saw how the city of Phoenix was behind them. They're like, we're not letting you guys down.
Exactly.
Because that's 2 really big pickups. And Bria Hartley Bria Hartley's okay. But, they lose their first rounder in 2023, lose their second rounders for the next 2 years. So this kind of has to work out for Phoenix, or else they'll be a bit in the hole with the draft picks.
For sure. We got the Storm. They trade Katie Lou Samuelson and number 9 pick for the LA Sparks' Gabby Williams.
Yeah, Gabby Williams. A couple days ago on Twitter, Gabby Williams had it in her bio, or I think it was on Instagram. She had it in her bio, WNBA player, but I'm not sure where yet. I think she finally got to change that to Los Angeles. Gabby Williams getting getting traded to the Sparks, or Gabby Williams getting traded to Seattle, and the Sparks getting Katie Lou Samuelson, one of the top players came out of UConn a few years ago. Has been on the Storm for their runs and everything, joining that trio of UConn grads there. So Katie Lou will be on her way to LA, and actually she'll be joined by another one of her Storm teammates who recently signed with the Sparks, Jordan Canada, who is from LA. And so she's returning home to play for her hometown team. And so the LA gets a couple big pickups there, but they're not done because we've got more to talk about that LA picked up.
Yes. LA traded Erica Wheeler and the number 15 pick in 2022 and 2023, first rounder to Atlanta for Kennedy Carter and Lee Euro? Yeah.
I mean, Kennedy Carter, the number 4... I believe the number 4 pick in the draft last year for the Dream had some disciplinary issues for the Dream, I believe, or she was gone. She didn't play for a lot of the season. She was suspended by the team for conduct detrimental to the team, whatever. It was revealed later she got into a fight with one of her teammates or something. But she's been in the lab. She's been working with Angel McCuffrey, and Kennedy Carter gets traded from Atlanta to Los Angeles. Hollywood, as everyone has been saying, that's her nickname, out to LA, and Atlanta gets Erica Wheeler. I mean, when I think Erica Wheeler, the first thing that pops into my head is Erica Wheeler dropping Sue Bird on her forehead last season.
Oh, poor Sue.
Like, that play, that was like, Sue Bird, I think, got dropped like 2 games in a row, and it started with Erica Wheeler.
Oh, wow.
And, it was, now, some people will look at the clip and say, she stepped on her foot. Sue obviously tripped. It doesn't change the fact that Erica Wheeler hit a big crossover, and Sue Bird kissed the court. That's just the reality of the situation here.
That is very true.
So, I mean, that's what I think when I think of Erica Wheeler. But Atlanta got a good pickup there.
Yeah.
And Atlanta also gets some draft picks out of it. So, LA may not be drafting anybody anytime soon. They also are trying to get their wins pretty quickly here. They've still got the Ogwumike sisters. They signed Liz Cambage, who's coming from Las Vegas, so they'll sign Liz Cambage. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest Liz Cambage fan. I think she's a good player when she plays, but I think there's also been some off-court things that have just kind of, I think, maybe affected her play on the court.
I could see that for sure.
And so I think that's kind of tarnished her reputation as a player.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
But, I mean, maybe this move from Vegas to LA will be a rejuvenation of sorts for her. And
maybe. Or maybe she'll just be partying hard in Vegas.
And that wraps up our WNBA free agency. And so now, for the end of our show, as you know, the name of the show, Queen of the Court. So, crowning our very first Queen of the Court, because we may or may not have forgotten to do it last week. Queen of the Court for this week. We talked about her. We mentioned her a bunch. We said we'd get into it later.
It's now later.
Iowa point guard, Caitlin Clark, the inaugural Queen of the Court. I mean, let's talk about some of these stats. Averaging 27.4 points a game. Averaging 8.2 rebounds. And 8.2 assists. This past week, because she is our Queen of the Court for the week, of course, she averaged 38.6 points, 6.3 rebounds, 9.3 assists in her last 3 games, and had a 56% field goal percentage, and was shooting 45.2% from the 3-point arc. And throughout the season, she's had 40-plus point games. And as I mentioned before, that 27 point, 11 rebound, 11 assist, triple-double that happened in their game versus Wisconsin. She scored 40 points in both of their losses this past week to Ohio State and Michigan. Caitlin Clark, our queen of the court. What do you have to say about this phenomenal player?
I think she's just such a, dynamic player. Like, she does a lot for her team, a lot for herself. I do think she deserves to be queen of the court, obviously. I don't know. She just works hard, very talented. I've been watching her since she was in high school and I was in high school. Yeah. She's a great player. She definitely deserves all the credit that's given to her.
Yep, so Caitlin Clark, our very first queen of the court for our show, Queen of the Court. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Stay tuned for next week to see what we'll talk about, who our next Queen of the Court will be. Yeah, thank you so much.